This is Richard Tabor Greene's video resume part 2. There's a couple of things that really happen. I want to do a couple of events. This is retrospectively. Uh, Fundraising at that NGO after MIT for 6 years astonished me. We visited the 2,000 richest American, Barbara Streisand, Robert Redford. This is when they were young and not when they were old guys doing Sundance. Um, Jimmy Carter before he was president, Andrew Young, Stephen Rockefeller, Nelson Rockefeller before he died, Hannah Arendt, Ed Shills before he died, Saul Bellow, just everybody who had a lot of money. And I was a stranger. I went in their living room. I said stuff for 30 minutes, told stories, and $10,000, $20,000 checks came, just like that. So the elite in America, and I visited all of them, remember, the 2,000 richest Americans that we visited. The hardest one was Henry Kissinger to get a hold of. He was the hardest to get access to. And we did this clever thing through Jewish charities and doing free seminars for Jewish charities that he paid, that he liked and served on the board informally, though his name didn't appear. And until the head of the charity really liked us, and then liked us so much, and we'd done so much work for them over an 18-month period that he said, what can I do for you? You haven't asked anything of me. And we said, well, there's this one little thing we'd like you to introduce us to Henry. And that worked. That was cool. But, just words in a stranger's living room and sincerity, and then money, real serious money, $100,000, $200,000 a week, $1 million a month. It was astonishing. The elite in America was unbelievably permeable to good ideas and sincere people. And later on, I found out that Asian elites and European elites are totally different. Absolutely impenetrable compared to American elites. You want to know why America has been the biggest show for the last 100 years? The elites in America think. They outthink the Asian elites, and they outthink the European elites, and they act fast. And they know that that's an advantage, and they keep doing it. And God, I hope this political crap with these morons from Harvard, Stanford, and MIT, from business schools, have stolen $13 trillion from everybody. If we can put them in jail, those elites that we have, these psychopaths who are in it just to soak the country for themselves, if we can put those elites in jail, anybody from engineering school who applies to work in Wall Street, put them in jail. Anybody who goes to a top 10 business school, put them in jail for intending to steal money from the rest of us. And then create elites that actually want to do some public service, serve something other than get a lot of money for themselves. If we can create decent, non-thieving elites, then my God, we have some precious things to preserve that you don't get anywhere in history. And I really feel that that's a big deal. And it changed my life, the fact that the elites in America are so permeable. Then what happened was 10 years later than that, after the University of Michigan graduate school and going to Japan and all that stuff, when I was back saying, okay, let's take all these ideas from Santa Fe Institute and these top social science things I learned at the University of Michigan, and then add that to the MIT AI technology stuff and the Wellesley creative writing stuff and the Japan quality stuff, and let's see if those 5 bodies of knowledge really have power and impact in global organizations. I went to 5 global corporations, EDS, Coopers & Lybrand Consultants, NV Philips, Siemens, Thomson Electric in Paris, not to mention previous work in Sekisui Matsushita in Japan. And boy, those ideas worked. They worked amazingly well. I met the CEO of every company I worked at, even though I wasn't hired as a manager, within 6 months of hire, giving me money, millions, staff, and buildings to do more. The elites at the top American corporations, whatever their greeds and their flaws, were open to new ideas in a way that's absolutely untrue in Asia and absolutely untrue in Europe. And I'd hate to see that get lost to history by Harvard and University of Chicago and Stanford Business School generating these psychopathic thieves that are now on Wall Street. I'd hate to see Wall Street undo what all the talented people who are not psychopaths do. So, I get angry about Harvard and Wall Street because those few, and it's a very few, a few hundred psychopaths generated by Harvard every year, go to Wall Street and steal trillions. I mean, $13 trillion is the entire pension funds for the baby boomer generation. And it's already gone. And the stupid baby boomers don't realize that the Harvard, Stanford, University of Chicago, Milton Friedman grads have stolen it. And there's going to be hell to pay when people realize it's gone. It's gone now. It's gone 3 years ago. And they don't realize there's no magical thing that's going to make it occur. There isn't going to be enough growth to make it occur, not to mention there isn't going to be any growth at all the next 20 years, probably. So, in terms of this resume, that's two major things that were immense, changing me from cynical to positive. The fact that I could go into strangers in that fundraising period, the 2,000 richest Americans, and they were all responsive to the sincerity and good ideas, except I would have to say the Rockefellers. Stephen Rockefeller and Nelson Rockefeller were hit by so many people for money that they had these cosmic no's, and I don't think they ever heard a word you said. But other than those two guys, everybody else was permeable. And that was very positive. And then 10 years later, going to these corporations as a complete stranger, an underling, not even a beginning manager, and doing great work simply by ignoring whatever my job was and then solving the biggest problem the company had in a totally nutty way, because I wasn't there seriously to have a career. I was just there to experiment to see if my ideas worked. And then bingo, the CEO finds me, puts me on his radar, flies me to headquarters, and puts his hand on my shoulder, and the photographs are taken, lunches are eaten, introduces me to the president of American Express and our biggest customers, has me do a demo for them. And here I am, songs and dance in front of CEOs, within months of being hired in every corporation I worked at. And in the corporations where I worked at more than 1 year, every year I worked there for a different project. So the elites in these big American corporations, however greedy they are very permeable to ideas. And this does not happen in Asia, does not happen in Europe. It's very, very historically rare and very precious. And I hate to see it destroyed by the psychopaths from Harvard. And they are endangering it. And so that's what makes me angry, to see these very rare, precious, historical elites, permeable to ideas, destroyed by the psychopathological greed that business schools at Harvard and University of Chicago and the Milton Friedman ilk of people are creating. And I really want the bad guys to lose. I really want the good guys to win, because I personally experienced the good guys, and it's very rare in history, and we don't realize what we're losing, and it's tragic. Yeah, the hell with that. That's just an old grumpy man. Then what happened after those corporations? Well, I joined these corporations. Within 6 months of being hired, I met the chairman of EDS. He flew me to work with intelligence agencies in Langley in this personal airplane with his girlfriend as the pilot. That was cool. I've got a lot of stories on that, but I can't put them on YouTube. And then Coopers & Lybrand, met the chairman of Coopers & Lybrand within 6 months of being hired because of an AI circles program I created for drug companies in New Jersey that made many more projects, much cheaper, much faster, much safer, with less risk. So I did 30 $100,000 each projects in a year instead of 2 or 3 $3 million projects a year. And the $3 million projects lasted for 4 or 5 years, had big risk, and never worked, and we never made money on them. Whereas we made lots of money on my little $30, $100,000 projects. They had no risk and no technical complexity, and we could finish them all in 18 months. So and then Xerox needed the Baldrige Award, and their IT part had nothing to show for it. And I had these AI circles I just done for New Jersey drug companies, and a book on it called Implementing Japanese AI Techniques. And bingo, I set up within 6 months AI circles at Xerox, and they won the Baldrige Prize with a citation for the AI circles in the Baldrige Award citation. And that was cool. And then I went on to do an amazing project and meet the CEO, Paul Allaire. David Kearns the first year, and then Paul Allaire when he became CEO later, for my Taguchi Expert System project, interviewing Genichi Taguchi in Japanese for an expert system. An application which wrapped around all of our competitor Taguchi software, so that for every competitor product sold, you bought ours as well, because we automated the input to their software and we automated interpreting the output of their software. Very sneaky project. And then the high performance work system, which is a conversation to software compiler. Again, very secret work. We got 600 orders for it from the National Security Agency before we had announced the product to our own management, because they had been snooping on our email. And you've got to work for bad Asian European companies that look good, but they're bad in reality when you compare them to how permeable elites in America are to ideas. And if you want to know why America is the biggest show in the last 100 years, just go to these American elites with a 21-slide proposal, wait 6 months, and watch them throw millions of dollars at you to turn it into a reality. It's a wonderful, fun game to play. So I didn't have a bad time in big corporations, so I didn't feel the need to leave them for a venture for a long time, because I enjoyed working in them. They funded my stuff inside. But I did create 3 ventures in Silicon Valley. And that was fun, because I realized that there's a culture there totally different than the rest of the country. And that's even more precious than what I've already said, these two cultures of positive elites. And that third culture is very important. I'll have to do another tape on that sometime else. So what did I do after these 6 corporations? Then my got a phone call from a dean of the University of Chicago while I was working at Xerox Palo Alto Research Center, inviting me to be a professor at the Graduate School of Business of the University of Chicago because he thought my book was a work of genius. In fact, 2 of the founders of the University of Chicago Business School in writing said that my book, Global Quality, was a work of genius. At the time, it was called World Quality, but later they changed it to Global Quality. But I have that in writing, the original memo. And would I work for the business school? And, long and short, I didn't want to work for a business school. And their computer systems are 40 years out of date. And a lot of them filled with Milton Friedman religious delusions. And, but he persuaded me and we went, did not regret it. But I wasn't ready for teaching as a college professor because I never planned to be one. So I spent my first 5 years in Chicago doing 2 things. Number one is organizing my past into presentable forms and models. And what you present to a business audience is just useless go to an intellectual audience. Professors don't take the crap that you can write for a business audience. So that was a tremendous rewrite. And then number 2, I had to figure out what educated people were and orient myself knowledge-wise with respect to all the rest of my life. And that became the excellent sciences, 54 of them, the creativity and novelty sciences, 18 of them, the 60 models of creativity, the 60 models of innovation, the 60 approaches to design, the 420 Silicon Valley dynamics, the 420 natural selection dynamics, that my big hierarchy of plural models of important phenomena. And I've got other YouTube things on that.